And we are back. Do appreciate you rejoining the morning show. As you can tell, I'm joined in the studio by Jeremy Wilson, and do appreciate you making the effort to come out this early, Jeremy.
It's my pleasure.
7 o'clock in the morning. I always tell my guests it's kind of early, but do appreciate you doing that. Now, he is the son of Ron and Renee Wilson, and he has accomplished something that I think is pretty interesting, which is tell folks what's happened.
Well, basically I've auditioned for the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra in Vienna, Austria, and much to my surprise, I won the audition, so I got a job now.
All right, that sounds fantastic. Now, let's jump back just a little bit and build the background as to how all this came about. When did you start playing?
In 6th grade.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. Which I guess would have been almost 13 years ago.
Wow, all right.
Yeah.
And now, starting in 6th grade, up to that point, never picked up a trombone or anything like that.
No.
So you start in 6th grade. If you can think of what were some of the pivotal sort of things that happened along the way that really made you think, you know, I really enjoy this. This is something that I need to pursue. Because there's so many people that they sit down at the piano or they try the trombone and they try it, and it's so much effort, and so, you know. But what were those experiences for you?
Well, I would say first of all, the first time that the band director came up and said, I think you need to start taking private lessons.
Wow. Okay.
Because that's one of the things about growing up in a semi-rural town is not a whole lot of other trombone players in town that can give you top-level instruction. So we ended up going to Nashville once or twice a week sometimes to have lessons, and my parents would cart me there. That was huge for my playing because that was the first time I was able to have like an hour or sometimes 2 hours of just one-on-one instruction.
Exactly.
Probably the next pivotal kind of thing, I guess, would be maybe around high school area. I started to win some competitions, some Middle Tennessee and some all-state competitions and things like that. And that was the first time that I started to, I guess, seriously consider this as a career.
Possible career, yeah.
Yeah. At the time, it was something that I really liked to do, that I was good at, but I never really thought that it would lead to anything this big. I thought maybe education or something like that. Those were probably the big pivotal experiences in leading me up to this kind of career.
Okay. And before we came on the air, you did tell me that you went to UT Knoxville. And so what was your course of study there?
It was music education and trombone performance. It was sort of a double major kind of thing.
Okay.
Like I said before, I had sort of planned on doing education, but I also considered that performance might be a possibility, so I did a double major so that I covered
both bases.
Yeah, just kind of keep my options open that way.
Makes sense. All right, so to make sure I understand, you pursued this in a way that if you wanted to ever teach,
exactly,
you could teach.
Yeah, I would be licensed and certified for like 6 through 12 music education.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. I'd like for you to describe the interview process for this. You know, and how that come about. How did they get your name, and then you're called there, and then just take us through that entire process. How that happened.
Well, it was the whole thing was a 4 or 5 month process, all the way from it started actually last December when I put in a tape for a solo competition. There's an International Trombone Association, if you can think of such a thing, and they have competitions every year for people all the way from high school age to college age and even semi-professional age. And so I entered a competition for, I think it was ages 25 and under, and it just so happened that one of the judges that listened to my CD was Ian Bousfield, who's principal trombonist in the Vienna Philharmonic. So he heard my tape and got in touch with my teacher, which was at the time at the University of North Texas, and said, you know, who is this? Because all the CDs are blind. You just they put a number on there. They don't know who you are. And it just so happened my teacher was the coordinator of the competitions. And so he called the guy and said, who is this person? I have to know. He thought I was Austrian at the time, just by the way I played. And he said, well, I'm a little bit embarrassed because this guy is actually one of my students, and he's an American. And he said, whoa, I can't, just from the style, he couldn't believe that I was an American, just very specific kind of things about my style. And so one thing led to another. He said, we've got an open spot in the Vienna Philharmonic. We're having an audition in May, and we'd like Jeremy to come audition for the spot. And so at that point, it wasn't even a sure thing that I would get an audition, because it was just him wanting me to come. There's still an invitation board that has to decide who's worthy enough or who has a great enough resume to come. So I had to wait a couple months to get the official invitation. But once I did that, I started really basically doing a crash course in orchestral audition procedure. I had never done an orchestral audition before. Never really thought that was the kind of career path I would go towards. And so I spent basically 2 months just cramming orchestral excerpts and taking lessons from all 3 trombone teachers at the University of North Texas, and went to Vienna on April 29th and spent a week and a half there. On May 7th was the audition, and we had 3 rounds worth of auditions. It started off with 16 or 17 candidates. After the first round, they narrowed it down to 2. Both of us, coincidentally, were Americans.
Wow.
And then they had us come back and play a second round, just the 2 of us, and then a third round, but with the blinding screen taken down so they could see who we were and where we were from and what we look like and all that kind of stuff. And after that, they just said, we'd like Mr. Wilson to have the job. So.
Wow.
And the next couple months are sort of a blur at this point.
I can understand. One thing that I'm kind of curious about is the language barrier. Or unless you don't speak that language.
I don't speak German fluently. No.
Okay, but did you pick up some before you went, or had you taken a course before or something?
It was just another one of those things that ended up lining up really great because I had a year of German while I was at UT.
That's amazing.
I had to pick a foreign language. I had to do a year, 2 semesters worth. So I did German simply because that's a big language in music. All the big music guys, Mozart, Beethoven, all those guys spoke German. A lot of music stuff is in German, and so I just kind of arbitrarily picked that because of that, and it turned out to be a good decision. But I'm not fluent, and my wife is not fluent either. In fact, she's never had any study of it so far, but we've ordered software, we've got all the audio tapes, and I'm just trying to get conversational right now.
Well, this sounds like it's going to be a really great adventure, I think. I mean, you're compared to me, you're a fairly young man, and so as a young man, you're going on this adventure, your wife's going with you, it sounds great. One of the things I want to talk to you about is if you could describe a career in performance and that kind of thing, and to give you where I'm coming from, if you look at like a professional football player, they have a certain number of years that they can play, and after that it's over. But I would say for a musician, isn't it different? I mean, how long's the career, and also will you stay with it that long, or do you have other things in mind? What's your thoughts?
It varies. Brass players have a good career of at least 20 years. But it's not uncommon to see somebody playing in a top-level orchestra for 30, 40, 50 years, So and as far as my desire, I plan on sticking with this. I don't know that it'll always be strictly the orchestral performance route, but I mean, I'm planning on sticking with music, obviously, but I don't know that it'll always be a strictly performance thing. I'm still interested in education, probably like college or university positions. That's sort of where I was headed before all of this happened. And so I'm not closed to any other possibilities.
Whatever happens, it'll look good on the resume, won't it?
This is the type of job that you don't get turned down for much else if you have this on your resume. I mean, it's the kind of job that opens doors elsewhere if you want to go elsewhere.
Okay. Well,